All right. Welcome back to the Virtually Speaking podcast. For those watching on the live stream, John Nicholson has disappeared, and in his place is one of my partners in crime, co-host Duncan Epping. Duncan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Pete.
Always good to see you, my friend. Hey, we're gonna be talking to this gentleman here. He's got a great story. He's a great VMware customer. His name is Chrys Bundy, and he works over at PODS. Chrys, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, Chrys, yeah, we were talking not too long ago about the importance of best practices, and I thought, man, let's have a conversation with Chrys. Chrys has a pretty interesting story about his onboarding process at PODS. So before we dive into the best practices and some things that we should consider, tell us a little bit about PODS. What exactly is that?
So PODS is a moving company. You've probably seen the large containers, white containers with the blue door. They'll get dropped in your driveway or by your business.
Oh, yeah.
You can put items in it. It'll take it to your destination, or you can just send them back to us and we'll store them until you're ready for them.
Yeah, I asked the question, but I actually knew because I'm definitely one of your customers. You know,
Awesome.
We've moved before, and yeah, put it in front of the driveway and have everything packed, loaded, and then it just magically appears at your next destination. It's actually pretty awesome.
The best part is the truck that brings it. We've coined it the Podzilla. It has an amazing way of just picking the pod up and putting it down anywhere you want it.
Oh, I haven't seen that part.
Oh,
so.
it's really interesting. Yeah.
Very nice. So tell us a little bit about your onboarding process over at PODS.
Sure. It was actually just about 1 year ago, this upcoming week, that I joined PODS from my old company. I followed my manager over. He knew that I would be perfect for the job to bring order to chaos, so to speak. But I didn't quite realize what chaos I was walking into.
Yeah. And what was your role there, by the way?
Lead engineer.
Okay,
systems
cool.
Engineer, yeah, or virtualization engineer.
Got it.
Specifically. The week before I started, I was going to have lunch with him and my other boss that they were working together then. The morning of, though, I get a call saying, "Hey, Chrys, we can't meet today. We've both been up since 2 a.m. with a vCenter outage. We just can't do it today. Let's reschedule." And that was my first clue as to, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? Like I had been in my previous position for 7 years. We've never had a vCenter outage like that, right? So I was a bit concerned, and day one I found both vCenters lit up like a Christmas tree. There was all kinds of alerts from 9 months ago. There were snapshots that were 9+ months old. Everything seemed to go crazy. There were outages all the time. So it was, the goal to bring order to chaos.
Duncan, that's probably not the first time you've heard that, huh?
Yeah, I think we've all heard that plenty of times, especially the multiple snapshots and trying to delete some of those, and yeah, that can be very painful. So how did you solve some of those problems? Especially the snapshots would be interesting understanding, and maybe just how you went through the process of solving the Christmas tree of lights that you saw blinking.
Well, I attacked it first from let's get the most pressing things out of the way. That's the snapshots, primarily that, and backups that weren't running. So we got that. I got at least stability there. And then I started looking at it holistically. So this was the first time I've had a TAM, technical account manager,
Right.
From VMware to help me. So he had his own tools. There's the TAM data metrics. There's the best practice analyzer. But we also used Skyline Pro and VROPS to pull just kind of a holistic view, a world view of what I was dealing with. Mm-hmm. And from there, we started at the ground. We did validated baselines from Dell. It was Dell Stack.
Sure.
Started at known good states and then just worked up. And, BIOS and DRAC. Make sure that the drivers we're using are good. And once I got that to a good state, then I could start, patching for security, so forth. Because when you walk in and hosts are PSODing and things are just downing or running out of space because, they didn't select the right, disk type, you really have to do that first, and then you can build up. So
just for the listeners, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the amount of time that it takes, because updating firmware sounds easy, but when you need to do multiple levels and validate the drivers, I know it's going to take some time. So how much time did you spend on that whole process, just that part?
Just that. It was probably over the course of 4 or 5 weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we had limited, time to have a maintenance window because,
Can't just take an outage?
I can't. I mean, at least not one of those where I could ask for forgiveness later, right?
Yeah.
It was one that I needed to plan.
Well, it seems like since they haven't been doing a lot of patching and taking care of their environment, they were planning for an outage, but it was going to be unplanned.
Right. They were definitely building towards a larger
Right,
outage.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I even found, that first set of firmware updates, once I got past compute, which is fairly easy, I started to get to the network stack above. And I made the wrong assumption that port groups were set right to where there was 2 active NICs. I couldn't believe it when I went into the port group for the management on that connected to vCenter. One was active and one was unused.
Yep.
So no wonder they had that, and that's turned out to be what it was, is that first firmware update of half of the network stack. Then they went to the other, and then it went haywire from there.
Wow. They obviously are not reading Duncan's books on best
Absolutely
practices
not.
because this has all been covered.
For sure, 100%. Yeah, I can even point the chapter out. So
I've been a fan a long time, so I can certainly, remember learning some of these from your blog.
So you said there was no backups. I'm sure you got that taken care of.
So there were backups, but there wasn't
weren't
any
tested?
rhyme or reason. You would go into a job that would say, hey, back up everyone that is named this way, but then the VMs would be named just slightly different, right? So they weren't really catching it. They weren't using tags. It was a manual process that you would create a machine. So many of the engineers on my team said, well, of course there's backups. Why would you not be backing this up? But unless my predecessors would have gone in and made that manual change, it never would have happened.
Yeah.
And now it's better. We're making the switch to Cohesity, using their amazing product, and make sure that we're covered in multi-layers.
Yeah. What about DR though?
So DR, we're using SRM.
Okay.
So that's how we moved forward on that. And we tried other products. And the reason we went with SRM is that you can set up, and we use the pure replication adapter, which makes the replication back and forth very, very
nice.
simple.
Yeah.
That you go into it and say, hey, here's my failover plan. And the failback is the easy part. It's one click, hey, reprotect, and you're ready to go. It takes all the information that it knows about the machine to start and makes that your destination on the failback.
But that is assuming you actually created a correct recovery plan, right? With all of the virtual machines included, that should be included.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And that's the great thing about the pure replication adapter, is that if it's you pick it by data store, so every machine on that data store is already included in the process.
Right,
so
right.
it's there, right?
So do you test like DR? Like I know people they'll build DR plans, but building a DR plan and doing a real failure test, like a failover, is
Yeah.
something that not a lot of administrators are excited about doing.
And that's what that was actually one of my first questions to my my fellow engineers on the team, that had their own specialties, and I was coming in to take over the virtualization aspect. Is that I was like, hey, what would happen? We're in Tampa, Florida, at least that area, right? A hurricane could every year one would come through, or at least come close to, is kind of scare us. So when that happens, let's be real, it's when, not if.
Yeah.
What is our plan? And they were like, oh, well, we'll just restore backups to Atlanta. And I'm like, okay, well, have we tried that? Is that a thing that do we know that's going to work?
and how long does it take?
And how long does it take? So, and of course the board will be like, hey, we need to restore. We need to start,
Yep.
making revenue again and making
yeah.
your numbers. So,
You've got 4 hours, but it takes 24. Guess what?
and we have, but to answer your question, yes, we have tested. We've had subsets of our environment training and stage that we've done, and we're planning a full production test later this year.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see that this story that seemed chaotic in the beginning is starting to, it seems like there's some stabilization over there now.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a good plan in place. You're here at VMware Explore.
Mm-hmm.
What's top of mind for you here that you can take back to PODS? Like what's next on your at PODS in terms of VMware solutions?
Well, I'm certainly excited about the vSphere 8 announcement.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not ashamed to admit we are still running 6.7 update 3. I started from the ground. We got disaster recovery, and then the next will be the 7 upgrade. So we are a bit behind the times. So I am a bit green with envy here at VM Explorer. I talk to people that they're ready to deploy 8. They're ready to go.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, well, I will be there. I'll be there. I'll get there. It might take me a little while to join you, but I'm very excited about That as well as the ARIA announcement,
Yeah.
the Tanzu stuff. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that, even if it is a POC.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and if you look at PODS itself from an operational perspective, are there any plans on improving, on what you've already built out today, right?
Yes, I will say there are certainly plans. There are plans in the books to push us more into the container space, into Kubernetes of some sort, whether it's Azure, whether it's on-prem, with Tanzu. So we have a new CIO that joined us. Or I joined after him, so I joined him. But he's still fairly fresh, and he is of the mindset that you have to invest in not only in your people but in your technology, so that you're not left on the side of the road for a competitor that swoops in and really starts to show you up.
So let me get this straight. A company that moves containers is thinking about moving to containers. That's what you're saying.
I'd never thought of it that way, but yeah, we will containerize the container software.
I love it. I can already see the advertisement.
Oh,
I love it.
For sure.
Man, Chrys, thank you so much for joining us on this Virtually Speaking podcast.
It's been
I hope you
wonderful.
enjoy the rest of your VMware experience.
Absolutely, I'm super excited.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.